So there's a lot of scuttlebutt right now. It's been in the air for a long time. But you take a look at Generation Z, they seem to be having a lot of trouble doing normal adult things. In some cases, there's reports where you've got the parents who, yeah, they're the ones who stepped in to the high school counselors and teachers to get their kids out of trouble. They even started doing that with college. And now they're doing that when their kids are applying for jobs or when they're
taking helicopter parenting to a whole new level. New data from resumetemplates.com shows parents are applying for jobs, joining interviews, and even contacting managers on behalf of their Gen Z kids. And they're doing it at high rates. Joining me now is Julia Toothaker, a chief career strategist with Resume Templates. Julia, I have to tell you, I was floored when I read this. Were you as stunned as I am about what you found?
I was. I could not believe how many parents actually sat in on interviews with their kids, either virtually or sometimes in person. That absolutely floored me.
So what are the employers saying about this?
I can't imagine that most employers are happy about it. I think that it really shows the lack of maturity in the kids and the Gen Zers that are doing this. But I'm sure that there are some employers, especially of smaller organizations, you know, I think of those mom and pop shops that are probably okay with it, but I would not think that that is the norm.
on the job. The parent is actually talking to a supervisor or sometimes even HR. So what in the world is wrong with Generation Z that they can't do normal adult things?
Wow, that's an interesting point that you made, or interesting observation that you made. And I say this, it's a couple things that's going on. First of all, I think a lot of parents, when these kids were young, worked a lot. So a lot of these kids were raised by the internet, they were raised by social media, and that was what was going on at the time. Social media, the internet, the rise of all this. And so these kids maybe learned or did not learn the same skill set that we learned when we were at that age group. And then it's another thing that's also going on. I think this is even a bigger issue here. It's like when we grew up and when our parents grew up, we pretty much knew what we had to do. We had a blueprint kind of set up for us. If you go to college, you study and get a meaningful degree, you can easily be able to get a job. That blueprint is not available for these kids now. They don't know what the future is going to hold for anyone. So for them, maybe there's a sense of like, I don't give a F, I don't give a care about what's going on because the future is doomed anyway. And also, they have been coddled by their parents because their parents kind of neglected them when they were young because they were working so much and they gave them whatever they wanted to, and they just did all the stuff with them instead of just being a real parent to them, like talking to them, teaching them lessons and stuff like that. They just gave them what they want and then let the internet and let social media raise them. So you got those two dynamics going on at the same time, and so it makes, it can make any group not give a frick about what's going on.
Yeah, I get that. And maybe I take your point that there's some of it, they just don't care. But, a lot of times when someone doesn't care, that's just an excuse because they're too afraid to try and fail.
This is true, yeah.
In this case, it really seems, because we always have generations where kids don't really care. We're Generation X, so we really didn't care because we were called the slackers. You remember that?
Same.
We were the slacker generation.
Exactly. Yeah.
We kind of had what's the use attitude because we were DEFCON 1 for most of our childhood. Or DEFCON 3, or we were somewhere. We entered the danger zone. I think the nuclear clock was at 1 minute to midnight on several different occasions throughout our youth.
I remember this.
Yeah,
yes.
And it was a big deal. So sure, it was easy for us to throw up our hands and say, what's the use? But for the most part, our generation sort of didn't, because our generation doesn't have a bunch of people who their parents had to, go with them to HR, to ask for for a few extra days off. That's not something that we ever had to do. So aside from social media, because social media is a big problem, it creates a lot of anxiety. I mean, we could talk for hours about that. There's been books written about that. There's institutional psychologists that have made fortunes going to work for social media companies to say, this is how you hack the human brain. And if you want to hack the 13-year-old human brain, it's really juicy and it's really easy. Let me show you how. So this is what these folks are doing. This is what these companies are doing. They're hiring these kind of people so that they can open up the human brain and make it as compliant as possible so that they can make as much money as possible. And it's good for the shareholders. But at the same time, these human brains that they crack open, they're left like detritus on the side of the road. There's really, in some cases, they're marginally salvageable people. What are we supposed to do with a generation? If you're an employer and you've got parents calling you, what are you supposed to do with that?
That's an interesting point. And I think maybe our perspective may be a little bit off too, 'cause I think the baby boomers looked at us the same way. They thought we were the lost generation and that we were the ones that were slackers. And what can we do? What can we do for this young group of rebels that don't give a F about what's going on? And so I think it's always that sentiment. I think we're just aging and maturing. People, every generation went through this, and I think and times are always changing. So we are definitely a much more progressive society than we've ever been before. So, and we have a lot more technology than ever before, and there's a lot more uncertainty than ever before. So I think we do need to give the Gen Z a little bit of slack, but we also need to teach them the skills to be successful. And I think one of the skills that we talked about often, and we talked about earlier in this podcast, is that this ability and this willingness to take risk and not being afraid of taking risks. I think a lot of these young kids are afraid to take risks because, like, they show statistics that men 18 to 25-year-olds are not even approaching women. So for a date, so if you can't even approach a woman and you're a man, and that's like one of the most basic attractions in every animal, almost all animals, the male is approaching the female. If we don't have that ability and willingness to take a risk for something like that, for a job, we probably have less desire.
Can you imagine a young man being afraid to approach a buffet of food? I mean. Sex is one. Sex, food, doing your bathroom business, sleep. These are all the driving factors of humanity.
Sure, for sure.
So, for a young man or for any young person to be too afraid to approach a member of the opposite sex, in this case, man approaching the girl, just to even say hello.
Yes.
And I think you're cute. Are you seeing anybody? What's your name? My name's George. For them to not even say something fundamental and basic like that, to be too afraid to do that, to think the world's going to crack if they do that, that's unfathomable to me. I mean, sure, they can be nervous, but just to not do that, so that it becomes almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy and a disability. Everybody gets stage fright for things sometimes. Even like when you go up in public speaking, everybody gets stage fright. Public speaking is not a need, though. You can always be part of the pack. You never have to publicly speak in your life. But if you're not going to approach a lady, that's like not approaching a bathroom or a kitchen or a refrigerator. You're going to die. And in the case of not approaching a lady, you're going to die on the inside in some way. If you so. This generation seems to be in a more in a unique position compared to even the way we were in Generation X, because we were more like we weren't rebels. We were lazy. I mean, as a group, because we were seen as lazy because we had no compulsion to give anything a shot, because every night the 3 channels we had on TV between 5 and 6 would say, the Soviet Union this, the Soviet Union that, and the U.S. is moving ships, and now China's making noise, and that was our youth. So we just learned to tune that out and be like, gee, okay, it's whatever. I'm just gonna drive my car fast and drink beer. Even though I'm 16 years old. I mean, that was what we did. So, but Generation Z, they don't even want a license at 16. They'd rather be fiddling around with their phones or whatever. So, I mean, are they really that similar to the way we were, or are we looking at really broken kids from a dysfunctional generation?
Well, let's hope they're not broken, and hopefully that they do have a little dysfunction, but that dysfunction can be corrected and they can be righted on the right path. I just think that a lot of the same. There's a lot of parallels. Like yes, the Cold War was always dangled over our head, but also AI is taking their jobs. Robots are taking their jobs. They don't have that same desire to drive because they have Uber now. We didn't have Uber when we were coming, so you can get anywhere you want to now by just getting the Uber, using Uber or using
Okay,
Lyft.
but if you were Generation Z right now, would you have $25 for an Uber across town in LA traffic?
I don't, but their parents are paying for it because their parents are
Right.
working a lot, so
Right,
which
right.
is our generation. So I'm saying they're not a lot. So if anything, our generation, which are the parents of the Gen Zs, we're kind of more at fault than anything because we did coddle our kids in a lot of ways because we did have to work a lot. And then since we had to work a lot, we didn't have the time to really parent our kids. We just gave in to their quick desires because we didn't take that moment which was a great teaching moment. We just took that moment and said, you know what, let's just keep them pacified instead of teach them a moment of like, you know what, maybe we don't need to get this ice cream bar right now. Maybe we can delay gratification, which is a great tool for any human being to learn how to succeed. And I don't think they have that tool because of the fact everything is so instant for them. They don't even have to worry about approaching a girl because you got Pornhub, you got all these types of platforms where they can jerk off instantly and it seems almost lifelike to them. So, I mean, that kills the male desire right there. And I think Professor Galloway talks about that a lot.
Yeah.
And the cancer that pornography has, especially on young men.
Yeah. Well, the pornography use, I mean, in the old days, you had to find some magazines in the attic or something.
For sure.
I mean, what else were you supposed to do? And the old days aren't even that long ago,
Right.
It's anything that predates 1996. Really.
Exactly.
So, so in a very real sense, you're saying that it's obviously it's on the parents. The parents raised these kids wrong. They did a bad parenting job.
Well, to some degree, yes. But they did everything.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about the kids like this as a group, I mean, there's kids that are extraordinary in every generation, and God bless the parents that raise the kids right of this generation because if they just raise them like normal kids, not even like special, but they just raised them like normal kids of a Generation Z, then those kids are like head and shoulders above like most of the category of Generation Z.
I agree with you, but I think first of all, I think a lot of parents didn't know how to raise kids in this new generation because things are moving really fast for them. Like we didn't expect the internet and social media to be so powerful of a driver and a learning. I call it a learning tool, but it is a the kids learn from social media. They learn from TikTok. They learn from Instagram.
So what made the kids what made the parents so ready to surrender their children to social media? I mean, in a big way, it's like our parents didn't surrender us to like back alleys. They just said, at least in the summertime when we had all day long, they just said, be home by dark. And dark, I grew up in Chicago.
Yeah.
Dark in the summertime was like 9 p.m.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
I was 10 years old and I was out all day long till 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And nobody said boo.
For sure, no question about it. But the internet came along and it killed the drive for kids to even go outside and play. As you go down these neighborhoods now, you don't see kids playing kickball or baseball in the street or touch football in the street. When we were young, every suburban city, every suburban block, kids were out playing until dark time. And sometimes a little bit past the nighttime. Yeah.
So the parents surrendered the upbringing to the kids to social media.
Yeah.
Because
It's easy.
there was no other social way that the kid at 10, 11 years old would be able to interact with his friends?
Well, I mean, there's definitely more ways for them to interact with their kids, but it's easier for the parents because I think a lot of our generation has definitely been overwhelmed by work because we probably even though Gen X was like the rebel, whatever you want to call it, generation when we were
the slackers.
The slackers in our 20s, but by the time we got in our 30s and 40s, we probably was the hardest working generation. We worked probably 50 to 60 to 70, 80 hours per week. And we come home to a crying kid, instead of like giving them a teaching moment, a parenting moment, we'll give them an iPad. So and that's what happened. And when you're on a long car trip with your kids, I mean, luckily you didn't allow the iPads. You didn't allow the iPads at the dinner table.
None of that stuff.
You didn't allow the iPhones at the dinner table. A lot of parents do because they
not at the restaurant either. Even if the kids are small. There was always the puppy syndrome. So we'd always be like out at dinner wherever, and then little kids would be walking around their tables. You know, they'd be walking around with their iPads. They'd have the attention span of like a goldfish, and it was just, they look like puppies. They look like little puppies just wandering around, and the parents. Completely oblivious, just completely and totally self-absorbed in their own little familial bubble. And then every now and then there was an outburst at one of the kids because he dropped the iPad. But why did he drop the iPad? Because he wasn't sitting with it. He was walking around with it. He was doing the little puppy thing. But there was always something was going to happen because these kids were wandering. Now some might say, well, that's how a child learns. Yeah. But not walking around a restaurant like somebody who doesn't know that the small fork is for the salad and the big one's for the meat.
Agree.
How about you just have the kids stay seated, teach him how to like focus and sit on his hands. And yeah, he's got to get some breaks. Yeah, you can't go to the fanciest dinner places with kids if they're still developing their sitting still skills. But at the end of the day, we can give the parents all the passes we want, but that's pretty progressive. I'm going to give you all the passes in the world, but your kids are still broken. So, that doesn't solve the problem. So I think if the parents created the problem, then they need to get out of their own way and publicly announce, I'm a failure as a parent, and now I'm going to give my advice so that others can benefit from it.
Okay, so then moving forward, what do you think is the solution? Because these people are still very young. How can they right their ship?
The first thing we got to do for any Generation Zs that are left in school, in high school or anything like that, is we got to take those Chromebooks and iPads out of the classroom. That has been the kiss of death.
Why do you say
that in the pandemic? Because since the pandemic, no kids know how to read anymore. Now, yeah, that's hyperbole. I'm not saying that they're illiterate, but I'm saying that statistically, according to the and this is study after study after study, and not even like psychological studies. This is just what public schools have to do in order to get funding. These kids can't read. They just can't read, and their behavior in the classroom is a disaster. They're like a bunch of animals in the zoo. These kids are completely out of control. Not every school, but in a vast and a growing number of schools, these kids just do not respect authority. They do not have the wherewithal to stay still, and a lot of that, sure, the pandemic just destroyed a lot of whatever educational momentum we had, which was already poor in our public schools. Whatever educational moment we had, we completely lost it. And this was the same time that we were introducing Chromebooks into the classroom. So we're basically introducing their drug of choice into the classroom. Anything digital, fine. It doesn't matter if they can put a filter on it so you can't like access social media or something, which kids always have a way to get around that. Because word travels fast in the school. But you get some kid who's in the who's getting B's in computer science, and he'll figure it out how to do the workaround. It's very easy. So, but you get them with their drug of choice, which is being distracted by this little digital device, and you also have them stay home and not really have to study. And you combine that with the new mastery that they have in public schools now across the country, which is you basically, if you get a D on a test, you get to take it over, and you get to keep taking it over until you get them all right. Now you'll never get an A, but you might get a B. They are going to get docked for having to take it so many times. But that's called mastery. In a way, I like it because yeah, it's better if the kid knows how to do it than if he gets this one 5-question quiz right. Just make sure he knows how to do it, give him good credit for it, and then hope that in the midterm he really nails it. But they were doing this for like tests and midterms is what they're doing now. They're doing this mastery stuff, and it's like, okay, that might be taking it a little bit too far. That's almost like going into the competition where single elimination, imagine an NCAA tournament, imagine a high school basketball tournament, single elimination. But we have a mastery program, so you get to play again to potentially stay in the tournament. It's like, Come on.
where there's no consequence.
There's no consequence.
Yeah, so yeah, you got to have consequences.
Yeah.
That properly incentivize people to take chance and to give it their best shot.
Yeah.
Because if you have unlimited chances, of course you're not gonna have any sense of urgency or any sense of drive. That it kills your drive.
Yeah.
So I think that is a problem. But what else you think can happen? What about the kids that were outside of college? I mean, even outside of college or just in college now?
Yeah, in college or just outside of college. College. It's been a long time, but I don't remember college as really being a jobs program. I remember college as being, a lot of kids were in pre-med, a lot of kids were pre-law, which was really just, studying the things that you needed. There was really no requisite other than core curriculum and any kind of major in order to apply for law school. It wasn't like med school. But there were a lot of kids who were doing pre-law, so they were doing political science, things like that. I don't know why, they should have been doing philosophy, but pre-med, there were kids who already knew they wanted to be accountants. That's more like a jobs program. Okay, fine, you're doing it for jobs. But if somebody's in school and they're studying any of the sciences, but they're not thinking of medicine, then it's like, well, you can't go to work with just a degree, undergraduate degree in chemical engineering. Yeah, sure you can. But kind of at a lowish level. You're really gonna need some type of grad school in order to be in any kind of position. What do you do with a chemical engineering degree? Well, I guess you work for DuPont or some up-and-comer or something like that, but not without a master's. I mean, without a master's, you're really limited to what you can do. It just shows, okay, you're bright. Where's your master's? You're bright and you were committed. You got through this at a decent university. Great. Where's your master's? What do you think you're really going to do for us here? When the kind of stuff we do here, you're going to be left in the dust because you haven't been in a graduate level lab yet. So these are the kinds of things that the kids that I went to school were facing as far as jobs program. Now, I just don't know what kids today are hoping to do as far as jobs program. I mean, if you're studying pre-med, pre-law, you want to be an accountant, you want to do chemical engineering because you want to work for DuPont or Monsanto or one of those places. Great. That all requires grad school. All the ones I just mentioned require some kind of grad school. Be an architect requires grad school. But and that's your jobs program. But the kids today who are doing other degrees in that, because most of the majors right now are not those, that's not a jobs program. That's basically a rite of passage. You get to live as a semi-adult for a while. You get to party a lot. You have serious responsibilities. You have to be at school. You have to be at class. No one's going to wake you up. No one's going to make you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So it's a rite of passage to go to college. You do become more mature. Like the kids who don't go to college versus the ones who do. Looks like the ones who do become more socially mature, but the ones who don't go to college become more practically mature. But the socially mature, they don't get that unless they go to college. So really, aside from a rite of passage and to enhance your knowledge that you failed to get in high school, to make you interesting at cocktail parties, and just like an interesting citizen and human being that can contribute socially. What can you do? What are kids going to college for, taking the majors they are? How is that going to contribute to the economic engine of society? And how's that going to put food on their plate?
Well, I think that's the issue right here. I think no one really knows what jobs are going to be available in the next 10 to 15 years. So I think a lot of these kids, like I said, they just don't care because they don't know what the blueprint is. And I think the way things are moving, I don't think having a rich knowledge base, I'm saying it's always important because training your intellect is like a muscle. Your brain is like a muscle like every other group. So the more you give it more information, the more you train it. But the need to know information is becoming less and less important. Then what's becoming more and more important is being able to work in teams with a skill set, work in teams and using the AI tools and the robotic tools that's around, and to work in a collaborative effort.
I see some of that.
So that's what's needed now. If I am an employer and I look for employees, that's the type of person I'm looking for, who can use the skills, but also has good who can use the AI skills. If they don't know something, they can easily be able to find out what the exact information is.
Of course,
and then they can be able to work in a
That's
team
always
effort.
been important, yeah.
And but they also have that willingness and drive to be resourceful. And I think that's kind of what's missing with the young generation. They don't have that sense of resourcefulness. And I think, going back to the cause, I think, not going outside and playing when you're young and just being on your iPad, everything is Fortnite. everything is Minecraft. So there's no real training of learning how to be really be resourceful. Yeah, be resourceful in Minecraft is not the same as being resourceful when you're outside playing with crawfish. And then you want to catch the squirrel or something like that. That's a different level of resourcefulness. You have to work with your teammates and stuff like that versus playing with somebody Fortnite in China. It's a totally different skill set. But I think the two skill sets can combine together and be very potent for future jobs. So I think we can't discard any of the good stuff that went on that's going on now. But like we can't discard all the good stuff that went on in the past, and that's what we did with this generation. They discarded a lot of the old school ways of learning and interacting with other human beings.
Well, it's like a fallen real IQ. About 150 years ago, an IQ test would have a question like, which of these doesn't belong together? A rabbit, a dog, a gun, and a mouse. So today, most people would say the gun doesn't belong there because you got 3 mammals and a gun. Okay. No, but back in the day, that's the wrong answer back in the day. Back in the day, it was the mouse that didn't belong there because you need a gun and a dog to hunt rabbits.
I see.
Yeah. So it's a different life. So the practical experience is completely different.
Totally.
So I need to push back a little bit on rolling back to something you said earlier in this part of the conversation. We're talking about, I think the kids in college that they don't really know what's going to happen with AI and that sort of thing. Yeah, sure, they're thinking that now. Nobody was thinking this 2 years ago, though. And these kids, this generation's already been pretty deep. So these kids were not thinking about AI 2 years ago, or even a year and a half ago. Nobody was.
You're right. Yep.
Yeah. So I think back then, when I went to college, there were kids who weren't studying the professional trades. I'll call them. Pre-med, pre-law, that sort of thing. There were plenty of kids who weren't, but they didn't think they were going to be getting jobs in their field of study. Like nobody who studied philosophy with me thought they were going to become, philosophers. Walking around with robes and sharing with people with what's up, what's what. Yet we all knew it's like, no, this is like we're becoming gymnasts of the brain.
Exactly. I mean, you're training your brain.
Yeah, we've got ab brains. We've got ab veins in our brains right now. That's how shredded our brains are.
Yeah.
That's how honed and fine-tuned they've become just through all the rigor of philosophy and logic, and in some cases applied mathematics. But we all knew that. I mean, some of my colleagues wanted to become PhDs and teach university. But the vast majority, we were just getting off on using our brains in like this cool new way.
Yeah.
So we didn't know what we were going to do for jobs. We didn't care because we knew we'd figure it out. So it seems like this generation, before the whole AI scare, they seemed like maybe either overconfident that things would work out, like maybe God would come down and plink their head and say, okay, you're going to be a 10 million subscriber influencer, just out of the blue, even though you post nothing. Or they're completely hopeless and decide, I'm just not even going to think about it.
Well, I think that's you hit another thing right on the nail. I think with social media, and not only young people's faces, in all people's faces, they get that get rich quick mindset implanted in them. So they think like, oh yes, I can just be an influencer. Like, why go to college? I can just, video cast me bopping around town like a Nimrod, and that's going to get me 10 million views, and I'll get a sponsorship deal. I don't have to go to college. So a lot of people are going through that too at that generation, you know. So,
Yeah.
and then they're not putting in the work, because even if you're going to be a content creator, you got to put in work.
You got to put in the work.
Even
yeah.
the ones that who are really successful, we may look down on, but like people like Jake Paul and his brother, they put in a lot of work.
No,
they treat it like a 9-hour job daily.
Those guys have been professional since they were kids.
Exactly. So you got to put the work in no matter what. And so I think that is part of like having that, you know, that afraid mentality. Is like it's easier to say like, oh, it's whatever, than it is to really put your work down and become rejected, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you know that's the biggest fear from a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people don't even try, because they're afraid of just of failing. You know what I'm saying? People are afraid of failing. I think this young generation are more afraid of failing than ever. And I've said this before, and I said it again. The only way to overcome the fear of failing is by going out there and failing. They need to go out there and put themselves in position to fail, to lose, to be rejected, so they can start embracing rejection, embracing failing, you know.
Okay, so what kind of progressive? Let's talk about the government.
Yeah.
To the extent the government should do anything at all,
Yeah.
what should the government do to see if they can like jumpstart this generation? Like
more military. You know, let them go to military. Like, you know what? If you want to go to college, we'll pay for your college, 2 years commitment, 18.
Or better yet, we'll pay for your trade school.
We'll pay for your trade school.
Yeah.
We'll pay for what you qualify for. You'll take a test at the end of your 2 years.
Yeah.
If you really qualify for college to be able to go to like potentially law school or medical school or some type of engineering program that eventually leads into a master of engineering, so be it. But if you're just going to get a sociology degree, we're going to put you in a trade school.
Yeah.
And I know that has like a lot of communist elements to it and a lot of socialist elements to it. So some people may push back against that, but
well, it wouldn't be communist or socialist if it was choice.
If it was choice,
if you get into the military right now, at least this was the way it was until
recently.
I assume
2 weeks ago.
somewhat now. That you can go to school on the GI Bill after you're done with the military.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like if you do your commitment, whatever commitment they ask of you, then you can get some kind of free money or some kind of super reduced interest loans or any kind of thing like that. We also give soldiers medical for life.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, which is completely appropriate. So you're saying there should be like some kind of a program in the government that I would say let's call it a draft.
Yeah.
Everybody gets drafted at 18, 18 to 22.
Well, that's what people say it's a socialist or a communist thing, because like now we're forcing people to go to the military.
Right, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be the military.
Yeah.
So and we've had a draft before. So yes, do we sometimes? It's not even socialist or communist. That would be more like dictatorial, because we're taking away their right to. We're saying if there are bullets flying and we tell you to stand there, then you must. So that's the government saying, I have control over whether you live or die.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that seems, a little bit fascistic.
Yeah.
But I guess, we've had Republicans and Democrats in office while we've had drafts. So, I guess it's a equal opportunity, not pleasant thing to do. But it can be, you can choose a military, how many of you guys want to be a Navy SEAL? Army Ranger? Cool stuff. Some guys are going to say yes. Others are going to be like, do you have any hospital work where I get to clean bedpans and wear my own clothes
So
and not have to run like 10 miles every day? It's like, yeah. You can do your 4-year commitment in a hospital.
Yeah.
Not a military hospital, a civilian hospital in your neighborhood. You can do your 4 years at an old folks home.
I think that's exactly what needs to go on right there. It's a kind of, I'm going to say like a National Guard / community service type program.
So what's going to be the lame-brained, a poor me victim argument that grifting activists are gonna be tweeting all about? What are they gonna say when this is put forth? It's like, we have a new program for kids. It's there's basically 20 different jobs they can do, and if they complete it, then the 4 years, then they get free college after that. Yeah. We pay 100% for whatever they qualify for. If they qualify for college, we'll pay for college. If they qualify for a private college, we'll pay the $300,000. If they qualify for a public college like UCLA, we'll pay the 1/3 of that price, because it's 1/3 cheaper. or 2/3 cheaper. It depends what if they qualify for trade school, we'll make them a master mechanic, and they'll earn more money than a doctor does in the first 5 years after medical school.
Yeah.
This master mechanic, because we're going to take you through all the certification. It's going to an 18-month course, and you don't have to work during it. You just have to show up every day and do your 18-month course. We'll pay for the whole certification, and you'll walk in the door at a mechanic shop anywhere in the country and make $105K just walking in the door. Yeah. That's true. I've talked to shop owners when I've needed work on the car, and they say, George, I just can't find a mechanic. And I say to them, I say, how much would you pay a mechanic if you could find them? They all say over $100 grand. And I say, now is that just like a certification level, or do they have to be having worked for like 20 years? Oh, no. I said, George, if he has an ASC certification of like a master mechanic or something like that, which you can get in about 3 years, then they're getting that kind of money.
Right off the bat.
Why aren't these kids going to trade school?
They're not going to, I don't know. So I think there'd be two pushbacks. One pushback is from the conservative side, this is going to cost money. Yeah. At least initially it's going to cost money. Maybe long term, it has a return.
It's an investment.
It's an investment.
That's an investment.
It's an investment. And the way our politicians operate, they only operate for short-term success.
Yeah.
This might be an 8 to 10. They might not see returns from this until 8 or 10 years from now. So that would be the pushback from that. And the pushback from the liberals would be like, oh my gosh, this is a form of dictatorship, or this is a form of communism.
How about it's totally voluntary? Which is if you kids want to spend 4 years as an orderly, or 4 years as a army infantryman, or 4 years as an old folks home person, or 4 years as a museum docent, if you're like an expert in history and know all this stuff, and you take a test and they say, you could be a docent in a museum for 4 years. Yeah, dope. I could have like a ranking position in a museum for 4 years.
I think if it's voluntary, I don't think it can be too much pushback, except for it's going to cost money. Yeah. That's going to be the biggest pushback. It's going to cost money. But if it's anything that's forced, you're going to get resistance from all sides. We can't, like Israel, they do force people from 18 to 20 to go to the military.
Well, so did we. Every time we had a dust up with somebody.
Yeah, but we haven't had a draft in over 50 years. So,
yeah, that's true.
So that's since the Vietnam War. So, and then there was a lot of pushback against that. There's tremendous pushback against that. And I think now people are much more skeptical of the government back then.
That's because the rich sons didn't go. That was the pushback.
Of course.
If we include the rich sons and the poor and everybody in between and the daughters, I don't think there's going to be that kind of pushback. You know what? There might be.
Yeah, there might
be more pushback.
Yeah, people are very anti-government now than ever before. People are just, everybody's a conspiracy theorist, and not everybody, but there's a big sentiment of.
Do you think it's anti-government now because of who's the president, or do you think it's anti-government regardless of who's the president?
I think it's anti-government regardless of who the president. I think when Obama was in office, a lot of people hated the government, and when Biden was in office, a lot of people hated the government. When Trump was in office, a lot of people hated the government.
Yeah, but doesn't it swing left and right?
Like
half the country doesn't like the government when Trump is in office,
and half didn't like
it. And
half
the country doesn't like it when Biden's in office. But it's just opposite halves of the country.
It's just opposite.
It just sounds like partisan politics.
It is partisan politics, and I think that'd be. And one of our future topics is talking about the left and the right, and how we always talk about it. Wall Street kind of created this division between us to keep them off.
They did that in 2008. They
keep our minds off of them and keep our attention off of them. So they make it a right wing, left wing versus thing. But at the end of that, most of these politicians are incentivized to both work for corporations, both right and left wing.
Well, sure. Yeah, I mean, because that's where the money comes from.
That's where the money comes from.
At the end of the day, anybody who pays you is your de facto employer.
Exactly. Yeah.
So although it's the people that vote these guys in office, it's the donors, which is the corporate entities that are the ones that are funding all these politicians. If they're giving $50,000 to one candidate in a primary. They give them $50,000 to a Republican too in that primary, and then when they're facing off, they give them $50,000 each. They just keep giving the same $50,000 over and over again to these candidates all across the country.
For sure,
that's just what they do. Yeah. So it's just a matter of, it doesn't matter which of these guys get in office. One of them is going to be better if I talk to him this way. The other one's going to be better if I talk to him this way. But they're both going to be okay for me. I prefer this one to that one, but I'm going to give $50K to both because either way, I need a guy in there,
Yeah.
and I need to have some kind of control over him.
Yeah.
That's really what goes on.
Well, that's the way corporations work. They work like Vegas. They cover both sides.
Yeah, you got to.
They cover both sides of the bet.
Yeah,
They're the house.
Yeah, they're the house.
They're
the house.
And that being said, there is a lot of skepticism of not only our government and corporate greed and stuff like that. I think from both sides. I think even with Trump in office, I think there's still a lot of right-wing people who are skeptical of the government. And their whole belief system is that Trump is the only one that is going to save us, because they still believe that a lot of these Republican senators and congressmen are just as crooked. You know, for a lot of diehard Republicans, they believe Trump is their only savior. And so be it. I don't know.
Just because somebody has your ideology doesn't mean he's not, a sack of shit.
Yeah.
Like you could have a politician that you back, that you support, that you vote for, that he's got the views you like. This is how he feels about social issues. This is how he feels about economic issues. Here's how I feel about the military. Here's how I feel about our foreign relations, foreign policy. It's like, oh, okay, I'm on board with that. I'm on board with that. And you can still say, I'm going to vote for him. Oh yeah. So you think he's so honest? Oh no, I think he's a piece of shit. Oh, why are you voting for him? Oh, because he's a small piece of shit. The guy he's going against is a really big.
So the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
So yeah, but. Going back to the young Generation Zs, I think they're really. I think they almost even desensitized to politics and stuff. I think they could even care less.
They could care less. I think. Did you care about politics when you were young?
A little bit, because I was kind of caught up in the whole Gorbachev, Reagan thing when I was young. That was big. It was big to me. I paid attention to it. When I turned 18, I was excited to vote.
I was excited to vote too.
Yeah, I was very excited to vote, and I voted for Bill Clinton for my first election. That was it. He came to the University of Michigan when I was a freshman, and that was really big. And he was, charismatic dude. I like, this is the guy right here.
In a lot of ways, if you look at Clinton, if he were to pop up right now.
Yes.
He'd possibly be a Republican. Just with his ideas, his views, that sort of thing.
The same with Obama. They pretty much are Republicans.
Obama's a Republican.
Yeah, no question about it.
Aside from social issues, I just don't see anything.
Economically, it's all Republican.
You know what? Though?
Very conservative.
He might be the one that helped turn the Democrat Party into a more, not socially conservative, but a more maybe socially liberal, but a fiscally conservative party, because he could have easily. He had both of all the things. I don't think there's any secret that I lean libertarian. I just live and let live. People can do the shit they want. Just don't bother anybody. Don't do shit that's vulgar in front of little kids. There's some things we shouldn't do. We have to have laws for. And that doesn't violate any libertarian code, but there really needs to be, like, for example, when Obama came in, to the man's credit, because I voted for him twice. To the man's credit, he never said that he was going to do national health care. He never said he was going to turn this place into heaven on earth. It's like a party where everybody gets ice cream and cake as much as they want. He never said that. He just spoke really beautiful rhetoric with not a whole lot of specifics. And that's kind of what we needed, especially because if you remember in 2008, the economic world, not just the United States, but the world was collapsing.
For sure.
We had the implosion, the collateralized debt obligations were just sitting on the shelves, and suddenly the brokerage firms thought we got all this inventory that we used to blow out, and we didn't have enough, and now we have no room. We just have too much of this stuff. The cash is gone, and we have nothing but these debt obligations.
The pyramid crumbled.
Yeah, but it's like they weren't marked to market.
Yeah.
So if we mark these to market and we say what they're really worth, the entire financial system will collapse. And eventually, enough people knew that they never had to say it. The system collapsed. So Wall Street ginned us up. Wall Street put us against each other. The reality is, back then, the whole, for the most part, the heavy lifting of race relations was behind us, and now it was just making sure that everything was in its place and everything, everything could really be like Dr. King said, where black and white children would hold hands, and it would just be nothing. It'd be nothing at all. It'd be just love and harmony and beauty. And we were like, kind of like doing mop up on that.
I think so.
Until Wall Street stepped in and said, because they couldn't have brothers and sisters across of all races hold hands and say, these some bitches screwed us up.
Yeah, it's the corporations. But,
Yeah.
you know.
So there was, and it wasn't good for any of the elites, media, political, and corporate elites. That would not bode well. That's the way, you know, a lot of revolutions start. So what do? They let incendiary groups start to make trouble, start to pick out statistically uncommon things and pretend like they happen all the time in a very big way. And then boom.
Of course. Yeah.
That's when it was like, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, I want a race war. Exactly. And we were in trouble for about 5 years.
And I think that with social media and the algorithm, you know, feeding people more of that stuff because they just even sparked a little bit of interest to it. So they just push them down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
It causes greater division. I think Obama coming into office kind of started it also. 'Cause I think maybe there was a lot of dormant racism toward black people at that time. And
yeah, but more than half the country voted for Obama.
No question about it. But that little half that didn't vote for him, they were inciting. I know.
It's probably unfair to say that half the country was racist.
Trump incited that stuff too because he knew how to play to his constituents. And then I think COVID really put us in our boxes.
I mean, don't you think some people actually liked McCain because he wasn't like a child who only had a partial Senate?
No, for sure.
So he was a state senator from
Illinois. Was a great dude. We did a lot for our government.
Obama was a state senator from Illinois, and then he wound up getting the U.S. Senate seat from Illinois because the guy who had to step down.
It was a runoff election.
He had to. I think Obama was appointed.
Oh, appointed? Okay. I thought it was a runoff election.
We'll have to look that up because, and maybe we'll put it in the notes because the guy who stepped down.
Yeah, I know about that.
His wife was an actress, and she was this incredibly like knockout. You know, if there's a 12 on the scale of 1 to 10, she's a 12. Just beautiful bombshell blonde. She was on one of the Star Trek shows in the 90s. And so she filed for divorce, and one of her claims was, he kept dragging me to sex clubs and made me do things with people. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you know, salacious, scandalous. And so he had to step down because that came out in the divorce papers, and, you know, all those papers are public. So, and that's when Obama was either runoff election, which I don't think so, I think it was appointed. And then it was, so he had spoken at the Democratic National Convention in 2004, and he brought the House down. He was supposed to. Everybody knew that. And everybody knew that like in 2016, after Hillary was done, then he'd get his shot. But he had to get up there and run a couple of times against Hillary just to get his chops in, just to make sure everybody knew him. Lo and behold, he gets it. He gets it. He's not supposed to get it. So he's like, oh, shit. Because just like Trump, when he won, he wasn't supposed to win. He had no team. So Obama won the nomination, and suddenly it's like, but I don't know anybody in Washington.
So he used all
the Clinton's people.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was basically Clinton's third term. That was a problem. And he put her in his state. Yeah. You know.
No, for no question about that.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, I don't. Maybe there were a chunk of people who didn't vote for Obama who just flat out were racist, and they were like, no. If a guy doesn't look like me, he can't be president. It's like, okay, that's them. But there were plenty of people, I think, that were thinking. I was never a fan of McCain, so that was never going to happen. But there were plenty of people that would see McCain and they would say, Republican. He wants a wall on the border. Remember when he said he had that commercial? It was like he told the sheriff, "Build the dang wall." You know, and everybody cheered. And even Hillary was like, yes, we need to build a wall. You know, everybody was building a wall. Until then Trump decided to build a wall, and they said, you're an idiot. Where are you going to have a 9th century technology in the 21st century? I don't know. It's like, do you have a wall around your house? Do you lock your doors? I don't know. If you do, then maybe you're onto something. But the reality is that there were plenty of people, I'm sure, that thought that McCain or even Romney were sober characters that maybe we should give them a shot and give their policies a shot. They have more experience in like running stuff. Maybe not McCain. He's a senator that crashed 5 planes and got C- and wouldn't have been at the Naval Academy if it weren't for his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather admirals. But Romney certainly ran a state, and he actually authored what became Obamacare. I don't know if he authored it, but he was the one that implemented it in Massachusetts, and that's the one that Obama took. Oh, and going back to the first thing I said in this segment, which was, of all the libertarian things that I would break away from, well, I think all libertarians would say national defense is very important. It's a national thing. Police, parks, fire. I would add national health care. Why the man I voted for twice, when he had, in the first time, he had the entire Senate was Democrat, the entire House was Democrat, and the White House was Democrat. And he had a lot of support for national health care. I was one of them. Why wouldn't you do national health care? Medicare for all. Remove the waste, fraud, and abuse, and everything would be Jake after that. But instead, we got this Romney care that really suits nobody all that well. You know, so I do have to push back a little. I don't think that, you know, everybody who thought McCain was okay, good enough to vote for, I don't think everybody thought that, well, gee, gotta have a white guy in the White House. A lot of people, I'm sure, did, but I don't think that, like, you know, your ordinary, because McCain was kind of a lefty Republican, you know. He was kind of a little more loosey-goosey. So I think a lot of people thought, you know, I like fiscal conservative and I like a little bit loosey-goosey social stuff, so I'm going to go with McCain, you know. I think there were, I don't know, I can't put a number on it, but at least half the Republicans were looking at McCain for non-racist reasons. And if we want to be really, really, like, you know, give a side eye to the rest of the Republicans, we can say, yeah, 25%, yeah, they were flat out racist. So I'm willing to say that. I'm willing to say 75% of the country was not racist. The 50% that voted for, 51% that voted for Obama, and half the Republicans that voted for
I agree.
for McCain. I'm going to put those 75% of the people as decent human beings that aren't pieces of shit.
But,
and I'm going to put as many as 25% maybe were. But again, I'm just throwing numbers out because I have no way of knowing.
Even if it was only 5%, going back to what you were saying earlier, that's when corporate America stepped in and started inciting these people with the rhetoric, like, you know, and then I think Trump continued with that rhetoric of inciting division amongst people and stuff like that, based on their race and based on their gender and stuff like that. That being said, I think on a positive note, the young Gen Zers, I don't think they have that, and there's surveys that show that they don't have that same sensibilities when it comes to race and religion and sexuality. Do you think that's a positive note moving forward for the Gen Z, or you think you think that can also hinder them for progressing?
So with regard to that, I think that that's a really good one. I think that so if they just removed all those obstacles, like if they just said, you know, we're all brothers and sisters, whether you know, our pigment is different, whether our eye structure is different, whether our hair structure is different, whether
and ivory.
Yeah, hey, I know that song by heart. It's true. I break into that song from time to time.
I'm like Stevie Wonder, and who was the other person?
Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney. Stevie Wonder.
But we should just take the opposite roles because it doesn't even fucking matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't even matter.
Yes.
So I'll be Stevie.
Okay.
You know? So if they just do that, just adult-like, you know, say, no, we're all brothers, our gay brothers, our trans brothers, you know, people are gonna be people. I don't now it's a whole different ball of wax, but I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, let the guy with the beard and the dress into the girls' locker room when the little girls are getting dressed for swimming. I'm not gonna say okay to that.
Yeah, that's not
I'm not gonna say okay to that. We're gonna have a whole different talk about that, but I think it's been done to death. But I am gonna say, hey, we're all brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So let people wear dresses if they want to wear dresses. Let them identify as a lady with a beard if that's how they want to do it.
Yeah.
I just don't care. If they want to prefer to be called she, I'm going to call her she.
Yeah.
I just don't care. I just don't want for things that are more sensitive, like little girls' locker rooms and things like that.
Yeah.
I just don't want their personal preference, the personal preference of, say, trans folks, to be to their kind of magical thinking about that. I don't want. I'm perfectly willing to indulge that, but just not in like a little girl's locker room or on the athletic pitch against America's daughters.
Yeah, for sure.
But otherwise, yes. I think the kids today are right-headed when they say, "Who cares? It doesn't matter," and they're even using things that used to be racist things to say. They're just talking that way to each other because they think it's a joke.
Yeah.
They think the whole race thing. So, the whole thing about Martin Luther King when he said, content of character, not color of the skin, which basically, for like a decade, people were getting like slaughtered for saying that. It's like, I'm just quoting the man, that's all. But the reality is the kids today, they're living it.
Yeah, they are.
They're living it, and they're not even watching these woke adults
that's
say stuff. They're not even like commenting on that. It's just not even part of their lives. Like
the woke is like more the millennials and
the millennials,
the younger the younger part of Gen X.
Younger Gen X, millennials, and maybe there's some Gen Z that because they're still on college campuses.
Yeah.
They're still saying gays for Gaza. It's like, I'm very sorry to all my gay brothers and sisters. In Gaza, they throw you off a roof if you're gay. And you think I'm joking. Or you think I'm being like weird or funny. No. They throw you off the roof.
For sure.
That is just not accepted. So you get some of these blue hair, septum ring, sitting around saying, kill all Zionists and gays for Gaza. It's like, you poor, sweet, lost human soul. You poor, sweet, lost human soul. What are we going to do about you? How are we going to help you? How are we going to make things better for you? These are all toddlers who are damaged like toddlers. We must look at them like they're toddlers. Every time you want to think, oh, gee, I just want to strangle this guy. You just got to think, as a toddler, what hurt did he experience that makes him such a dick right now?
Okay, so going back to your original question that we talked about today about Gen Z, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe all of us are a little bit lost? Like our whole society, especially like the Western world, especially in particular the United States of America?
So I think that's a great question. I think in any time in history when things are going pretty good, where you're not living hand to mouth. And this includes even like aristocracy. Like back in the day, if you were an aristocrat, sure, you weren't living hand to mouth, but you kind of were, because the power could change at any time. Because how are you going to know if there's a war happening already? You might know 2 months later, oh shit, my country's been at war for 2 months and we're losing. There's going to be this other king going to come in once our king gets slaughtered. And I'm in the court and my whole lifestyle may go away. I may have to like open a bakery. I'd kill myself before I do that, because these were aristocrats. They didn't work.
I have to move back to the valley.
Yeah, right. But that's a big problem. So I think that if we allow ourselves, throughout history, we've always been lost. I just think the key is don't focus on that.
Yeah, of course.
Because we never really know what to do. The only time that we know what to do is when we're so busy that we don't have time to think about it. Like with all of our businesses. If you have a business, so for the first time in my life, I started seeing a chiropractor and got an adjustment. First adjustment he ever gave me, I laughed my freaking head off. It was just so funny to me. So, have you been to a chiropractor?
I've been there a million times.
So they fold you in half. With me, it was all up here, all up on the shoulders. Yeah. So it folds me up like this, and he's just talking to me. He talked to me like 10 minutes beforehand. I think that's what they do. They put you in a place. They hypnotize you a little bit. And he gets my neck ready, and I can see he's looking off. He's not looking at me. He's just thinking about how he's putting me together. And then he just starts rocking like this. I know he's counting 1, 2, 3, and I'm just waiting. And he goes, pop, and it cracks, and I crack up. And boom, he does it the other side. Boom, he does it the neck. There was a great reason I was telling this story.
You were talking about the reason why this, because we're all lost at some times throughout history. But you know, when you got this chiropractor adjustment, that made you think about how society's lost sometimes and how you just kind of figure it out.
It puts you back in place.
Yeah, exactly.
It puts you back in place. And but most of the time we're so busy that we walk around with tight shoulders and we're working like this, and you know, we're going to work. We do our thing, we have dinner, go to sleep, and then we do it all over again. So there's no question. You never think about your tight shoulders when you're so busy. But once you're a little bit less busy, you start thinking about, well, gee, I'd like more longevity. I'd like to be able to, you know, throw balls a little bit longer in my life. Then you go see a chiropractor. You're a little bit lost because you're thinking, like for me, you know, if I actually want to box, if I want to give it a real shot, be an old man boxer, then I have a very limited window to get my shoulders straight, because at a certain point there's no athletic commission that's going to give me any kind of a license above a certain age. In fact, already at my current age, I may only find 1 or 2 states in the entire country that's going to give me any kind of license. Okay, so I got a very limited window. So it's perfectly normal for us to be lost when we don't have any time to not feel lost, when we don't have any time to breathe. But when we give ourselves a little time to breathe, once we start getting a little bit of healing in our shoulder, and we start thinking, oh, this cracking might work. And now it's like, well, gee, am I going to make it in time? If I don't make it in time, but then my shoulder's healthy after that, what else am I going to do? What other big final 30 years of life project?
But at least you're moving forward, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
It might not be exactly where you want to go, but
Yeah.
you're at least moving in a direction. And where a lot of these kids, they're not even moving in any direction.
They see the first thing that indicates that the path is not perfectly clear, like jumping out with red arrows, and they're like, oh, I'm lost. And if that's the case, then bad parenting or not, you know, it's like it's like one of the greatest lines in movie history was in a movie called Animal House from the 70s.
I remember Animal House.
And once the dean is about to expel the deltas, the Delta Tau Chi's, he says to one guy, he says, son. It wasn't the son, but you know, that's the way old people used to talk to young people. Son, fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life. After he says, and Kent Dorfman, GPA 0.0. After he announced all the other GPAs, he said, son, fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life. You know, so if these kids are going through life fat, drunk, and stupid, only not even drunk, because they don't drink anymore. They're going through life fat and stupid. It's like
intoxicated off the social media.
Off dopamine hits. It's like, you know, I consider myself to have a relatively kind heart. You know, once you like past the age of 18, you can say, you know, mommy wasn't there, daddy didn't care.
But it's up to you to fix it.
Now it's up to you to fix it. You know, you're an adult. You can, you know, you can vote. You can do all kinds of nasty things, and it's legal now. When you're an adult, you kind of have to trade in your whining card, and you have to say, okay, now that I'm an adult, I got to take responsibility for myself. I got to re-raise myself. I got to reteach things to myself. I got to love my parents for what they thought they were doing, but they were flawed. I mean, look at mom. Mom's fat. Look at dad. Dad's fat. You know, it's like they couldn't even control their own appetites. How were they going to like actually guide me right? You know, so I think you know, they're going to have to step up and take responsibility for this. Sadly, that's not what happens. If you have a population of 1 million, you're going to have, you know, 80% of the people are not. They might be fun to be around, but it's 20% of the people that are actually going to be driving things. And if you have 1 million people, it's going to be 200,000 people. If you have 10 million people, is going to be too many people.
The 20
and if
people.
you have 10
And you
people, it's going to be
20
2 people. Yeah, it always works out that way, and who knows why. And the bottom third is always trash. You know, and then you have to okay.
So it's a bell curve, pretty much.
Yeah,
It's always a bell curve.
You got to take the bottom third out and put them in a place where they won't be trash.
Yeah, so they can be more productive for our society.
Yeah. And maybe, you know, working behind the order desk for rental equipment at the Home Depot is the right place for them, where they can eat all the gummies they want in the morning. So some people just have to be there.
Yeah, like they said, like Shakespeare said, the world's but a stage, and everybody has a character.
Everybody has to play a part. Yeah, everybody got
a part to play.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm gonna leave us on one note. And I watched Quincy Jones' documentary, and he said exactly what you said. I don't know if it's 18, but by the time you get a certain adult age, you got to fix your. And that's it.
Let's call it 21. Let's say the day you can buy weed legally and whiskey legally.
You got to at least go down that
That's when you have to start fixing your shit.
Yeah.
Like you get a pass till you're 21, but the day you can put poison in your mouth legally, alcohol or weed, that's when it's got to be okay. You're an adult now. Time to fix your shit.
Fix your stuff.